There's a reason I made this my life's work, people. Hello, my name is Amelia Nagoski, and I am the co-author of a New York Times bestselling book about stress management, but here are my academic credentials to have done that. I have a Bachelor of Music degree in choral general education and a concentration in voice, and a minor in medieval history. I have a Master of Music degree in choral conducting with a minor in voice, and I have a Doctorate of Musical Arts in conducting with a minor in music history. How the fuck did that qualify me to write a book about stress? Well, first of all, I wrote it with my sister who has a PhD in health behavior. We worked together, but my experience as a musician informed the way we wrote the book in order to make it more accessible, in order to provide a wider range of examples for people to hopefully relate to. And I've already made a video about how music itself helped cause and also cure my burnout, particularly during my experience of pursuing a doctorate. This video is about another specific aspect of music making that helped me and can help you or anyone help manage stress. That aspect of music making is singing, and make no mistake, every musician sings. Even if they're a pianist or a clarinetist or a violinist or a guitarist. And by that I don't mean that they have like some kind of beautiful, Jennifer Hudson voice. I mean that they can match pitch, that they can negotiate their own passaggio, that they can create a phrase using breath, that they can change the color of their tone, and they can feel how their body is involved in creating sound. All of this is what singing actually is. Singing is not really about sounding good, although in your training that's the thing that you work on. Singing probably was a precursor to language in the development of human communication. Birds sing, whales sing, and we know that apes make sounds that we don't call singing because maybe they're not as elaborately pitched or sustained as the other kinds of song are, but it's probable that humans made vocalizations before they used phonemes and meaning in order to, tell people information like, I would like to have some food, please. Thank you. Indeed, about 20% of all communication is verbal, and the rest is carried in our body language, yes, but also in the inflection of our voices, how the pitch goes up and down, in the speed, in the clarity of the articulation of consonants. And really amazing singers tap into that atavistic root of vocal expression, although it is filtered through a highly refined technique. In the end, it is touching and moving and humane and artistic and expressive when it is coming from something deeper than just, here's my training. I'm a talented, skilled, musician doing artificial things that aren't easy for anybody, and I have learned how to do those things. Good for me. No, I mean, that's impressive. When you hear it, you go, damn. Or maybe you don't. But the most powerful singing is always going to be communication that comes from telling a truth. How singing can help manage your stress. Number 1, breath. Singing starts with the breath. Matter of fact, it's only 2 things, breath and resonance. We're talking about breath right now. And of course, everyone breathes all the time. It's a response of your autonomic nervous system. And you can choose to breathe a certain way, or you can just be like unconscious and your body will take care of your breathing on its own. You just allow it to do whatever it wants. And when you are asleep, your breathing is generally ideal because your body's just doing it without any interference from you. You're laying down and your rib cage is free to expand. If you ever want to have a very creepy project, you can record yourself while you're sleeping and get some light on your, thorax and abdomen and see which one is working harder while you breathe, which one is expanding and contracting. It's going to be more your abdomen than your thorax. It's going to be more your belly than your rib cage. And it's not going to be this. This movement of the shoulders has nothing to do with breathing because the breath happens down lower, not up here. And if you are going, and when you breathe, if your shoulders are moving, the reason this is important is because if you breathe and your shoulders are moving, that means your abdominal wall is okay, let's talk about some anatomy. Where are your lungs located in your body? They're not up here. They're more like down in here, under your rib cage. Look, I'm not a scientist, so if some of this anatomy seems a little simplistic, yes, that's correct. But it works. We begin with the internal and external intercostal muscles. They're the muscles that are either inside or outside your rib cage that can contract to pull your rib cage open, or the inside ones contract to compress your rib cage. So you can go and expand them or and contract them. When the external intercostal muscles expand, they pull on a muscle called the diaphragm. It's not the diaphragm, it's one of the diaphragms in your body, but it's this diaphragm that divides your thorax from your abdomen. And when it is pulled, like at my wrists would be the place where it's attached to the rib cage. So when it is pulled sideways by the expansion of the rib cage, it depresses slightly. It goes from domed to slightly less domed. And when it goes like that, imagine that all your viscera is in this little dome down in my hands, and it goes, what's it doing to the viscera? It's smushing it. It's pushing it out of the way. It can be compressed without needing to expand anywhere. It could just be but only so far. If you really want to take a very deep breath, you need to relax the abdominal wall, the pelvic floor. You want to make as much room in your abdomen as possible for your diaphragm to depress as low as possible to smush all of those internal organs out of the way. So, external intercostal muscles contract, pull the ribcage open. Diaphragm depresses, pushes down on the viscera. Where does the viscera go? If the abdominal muscles are relaxed, if the pelvic floor can drop, it makes more room in your abdomen, and therefore the lungs can expand and pull more air into your body. This is what happens when you take a belly breath. A belly breath doesn't mean that air is going into your belly. What it means is that your diaphragm has compressed. And by the way, have I mentioned that your diaphragm is an involuntary muscle? You can't make your diaphragm do anything, which is why it's a pet peeve of mine when people say, breathe from your diaphragm. Because you can't access that muscle. There's no conscious way to be like, and now I will relax my diaphragm. There's no. So if I tighten my abdominal wall, abs of steel. The reason that works is because that's where the support for the breath comes from. Anyway, abs of steel. And I inhale, the breath comes in here, and that's it. So I only get a limited amount of breath. And that's why I might try to be and there's another muscle that kind of comes across here that does sort of pull and open and expand. And this is a last resort for maybe I can get another this much bit of air into the top part of my lungs. But that's not, you can't you can't control the breath you can't control the breath with those muscles. It's just a little bit more air. So if you really want a deep breath, it's got to go into the body. Okay, that was your first voice lesson with me. The moral of the story is when you learn to access low breath deep in your body, it does a lot of good things for you. Practicing this kind of breath is one of the first things that singers learn to do. It's also one of the first things you learn to do in yoga and other mindfulness practices. I just wish they would all stop talking about your goddamn diaphragm and start letting you know that your abdominal wall is the thing that needs to be flexible and soft. And I know abdominal wall does not sound like a thing that's supposed to be flexible and soft, and you're supposed to have abs of steel or whatever, but nope, your belly's supposed to be, wellness is the freedom to oscillate between all the cycles of being human. Guess what? Your abdominal muscles are supposed to contract and then expand and then contract and then expand. They're supposed to be tightly engaged and working really hard, and then they're supposed to be just loosey-goosey, not doing much. Honestly, breathing by itself is a whole singing practice, is a whole Tai Chi practice, is a whole yoga practice, I believe. Somebody correct me in the comments if I'm wrong. And when you're working on breath like this, of course, it does the very important job of teaching you how to attend to your body, how to listen to your body, how to pay attention to all of these muscles working in concert together. And that is not just from breath. It's from the things you have to do in order to align your skeleton and find resonances and recreate physical sensations in your larynx. Breath is connected to the overall thing, which I guess I should have made this its own number, but number 1A is teaching you how to listen to your body. The second thing about singing that can help you manage your stress is connection. Most people who sing with other people in choirs or in bands that they work in where they're like just using little bits of singing to like demonstrate to each other how things go. And indeed, music evolved as a communal experience. Making music together is the original nature of singing. And when you sing with other people, you are breathing in time with them, you are articulating words and communicating an emotional message together with them. And these are things that physically entrain you with the other people around you. Entrainment is the idea in physics where things that are moving to near each other end up moving with each other. So that if you swing two pendulums in a room and one is swinging and the other one is swinging, they'll eventually start swinging together. Entrainment. If you put a bunch of little like marching toys, there's a lot of YouTube videos of this, a lot of marching toys on like a little kind of bridge construction, little toy bridge construction. Eventually all of the little marching things will march. I can't make my fingers do it. All the little marching toys will start marching together in time. This is entrainment. It's a thing that happens in physics. It's a thing that happens among humans because ourselves, our minds, our identities, our beings do not exist only within our skin. Outside our skin, our bodies are continually emitting energy, like literally heat and like energy. And I realize this sounds super woo-woo, but the fact is that who you are is expressed to the people around you, and they absorb it, and it becomes part of them. And this happens in a very, very minor way. When you're just around strangers, it happens in a more impactful way when you're around people you love, whose energy has been part of you for a longer time, whose energy you have chosen to accept. And it happens so efficiently and so effectively when you sing together. You cross what actually, in the research, they actually call it, some of the two-person neuroscience research actually describes it as crossing a neurological bridge, where you cease to have yourself be just one thing, one inside your skin presence, and you become sort of like part of a group, of a whole, where you all come together, and people who have been parts of sports teams, choirs, bands, worship services, who have felt this like connection with this room full of people, or even just a small group of people all like sort of participating in these like rhythmic movement with a shared purpose. That kind of activity, Emily and I call it the magic trick. It's like the thing that elevates us most closely to the most human we can be. But some people want to sing alone, and you can even still get a sense of connection when you sing by yourself, because you're not often singing your own music, although that does have value. When you are singing a composer's music, you learn about that composer. You learn about their thoughts and their feelings and their perspectives on ideas, and you kind of get to know that person. I wrote my dissertation on Sergei Rachmaninoff, and I wrote my dissertation on Sergei Rachmaninoff, and by the end of that, I felt like he was my friend. I knew him. In terms of its impact on me and my wellness and how I feel, which is what we're talking about here, that sense of friendship is real. It's not real for him. It's not real for anybody but me, but I still benefit from it. If you are composing your own music, well, that is valuable for whole other reasons that we will talk about in a separate video. So connection with the people you make music with, which is the most common way to make music by far. But even if you're making music on your own by yourself, it's just you and the composer, even you and your instrument, singing can help you with a sense of connection, which is good to help manage stress. The third thing that makes singing good for helping manage your stress is the self-expression. I don't know about any of you, but I tend to sing like all day. Where is my phone? Where is my fucking phone? I cannot find my phone. I can't find it. Where is my phone? That's a song I made up this morning. I often just like sing in passing little things that's like, especially if it's like a heavy or obvious thing, I sing it to make it a little bit more tolerable. And if you think about like where vocalization comes from, When you see a big scary animal coming at you, your body just contracts and blows the air out, and it turns into a scream. You don't go, I should scream now. I should take a deep breath down in my abdomen where my belly is, and blah, blah, blah. Like, you don't do that. Your body just knows. And like back in the 60s and 70s, and I think still these days, the idea of primal scream therapy is just getting all of the feelings out. And it does feel really good. Screaming is not great for your voice. I mean, yes, our bodies can do it, can tolerate, can heal from it, but it's also possible to do permanent damage. But anyway, you don't just have to go back literally to the raw, visceral screaming. Any singing that comes from the intention of letting it all out. But I have to say that the most powerful, most expressive use of creative self-expression comes from actual, like, prepared, rehearsed. I have learned the notes and the rhythms. I've learned the articulation. I've broken down the ideas in the music. I have prepared in every way possible. I've gotten to know the composer's intentions, and now I'm on stage. And for me, it's conducting an ensemble, but we're working together and we're on stage, and it's time to tell this story that we've learned so well. And we go through a very carefully prepared and yet fully raw and spontaneous expression of this thing together. There's a reason I made this my life's work, people. Creative self-expression. If you know, then you already know. And if you don't know, then try it. Find a thing. It's not everybody's thing. Not everybody's thing. But if you had a thing like in school when you were young, where you just were like, whoa, when you made something, then you know. Maybe try that thing again. For me, it wasn't singing, it was conducting. But I learned about singing, and it was definitely a tool in the toolbox of all the things that I used to help me recover from burnout. But of course, I couldn't have done it with singing alone, because the cure for burnout is not self-care. It's not the stuff I do. It's all of us caring for each other.